Grand Archives champions have always stood at the forefront of the game. Like many popular gacha games, Grand Archive players often attach themselves to these characters for their designs and unique playstyles. But of the many champions in the game, none have really captured the hearts of players to the same degree that Merlin has since the game's launch.
Or a starter product, and that's going to be...
So many players are pretty excited that with the release of Set 8, Phantom Monarchs, Merlin is getting her first entirely new champion lineage, and as she does, she'll be dropping off her Prism Spire staff to take up the Assassin's Mantle. Thankfully, everything you need to explore this new role for this fan favorite villain, I think, is inside one box. I'm Dan with Maindeck, and in this video we're going to dive deep into the Merlin Brilliant Vestige Recollection deck. A water assassin deck that showcases both the story that brought Merlin Veritor to Underland and the Memorite magics that she has honed into a deadly blade to bear against her foes. We'll go through everything that comes inside the box, how the deck works, and look at every card to provide you strategic advice and some upgrade ideas to take your gameplay even further. So if you're ready to harness the sheen of her blade, stick around for this deep dive of the Merlin Brilliant Vestige Recollection deck. When you first pick up the Merlin Brilliant Vestige Recollection deck, pulling off the gold embossed outer slip will reveal the gorgeous magnetic storage box with a full display artwork of Merlin Brilliant Vestige inside. This box contains everything you need to play the game and more. This inner tuck box is your first step, which contains your full deck, plus Merlin's mastery and tokens, and inside this package, you'll also get additional cards to fill out playsets of every card in the deck, so you can customize your experience right from the start. You'll also find a helpful spinner to track life and preparation counters on your champion, some artwork dividers, and this useful fold-out card which explains the keywords you'll encounter in the deck, as well as provides you a link to the Grand Archive Quick Start webpage. Beyond the tuck box, you'll also get a 100 count pack of Merlin Brilliant Vestige Matte Dual Dragon Shield art sleeves to protect your cards, and new to this Recollection release, 2 thematic gemstone spin down dice to track your sheen counters with. Finally, but not pictured here, there will be 3 booster packs of Phantom Monarchs inside every Merlin Recollection deck to jumpstart your collection. But if you are very lucky, your box will also contain one final treasure. Alongside these packs may exist a copy of the collector super rare Spirit Blade Terminus in stunning textured foil with gold signature, so make sure to sleeve it up if you find it. When it comes to playstyle, the new Assassin Merlin deck is quite a bit different than her Mage and Warrior past. This deck is a firm mid-range style deck, situated between decks that focus on speed and damage and decks that focus on control and reaction. Merlin wants to play to gather her sheen resource constantly, which builds on enemy allies and your opponent's champion. She needs to perform attacks herself in order to take sheen off the board and put it on her mastery, and her effects build in power as she collects it. Guided by her fragmented memories, she's built to keep pressure up on the opponent with a barrage of consistent, smaller attacks, and use her Memorite minions to keep the board under control. Even in reaching the late game at her level 3, her full power only unlocks with enough sheen built up, at which point she starts to slowly extract her opponent's memories turn after turn to limit their power. There's little hope to escape at this point, as her relentless attacks continue, and it's only a matter of time before her foe succumbs to her terminus. Alright, with that overview covered, it's time to really dig in with our full deep dive into every card inside this box. The full deck list is displayed here on the screen. You'll get a full 60 card deck and 12 card material deck built for you, as well as the Fractured Memories Mastery, several ally and weapon tokens, and an additional block of cards to complete playsets of everything in the deck list. And here, I've highlighted every unique card that is exclusive to this deck and not found in any other product. Now, let's dive into each card individually, starting with the material deck. Your game starts with the basic Spirit of Water, allowing you to draw 7 cards and enabling the water element. Merlin Memorite Vassal is the deck's level 1, and she's got a lot of effects to look at. First, Her on-enter gives you the Fractured Memories, so let's look at that before returning to the rest. Fractured Memories is a mastery card, which is a type of card that exists to just grant you additional effects. This mastery has a lot of text, so let me sum it up. Fractured Memories gives Merlin the ability to gain Sheen from units she attacks. This is divided into two separate abilities. When she hits and kills an opponent's ally, her mastery will gain Sheen counters equal to the amount of Sheen counters on the killed ally. And when she hits her opponent's champion, the Sheen counters on that champion will move to her mastery. But, as a bonus, when 3 or more counters are moved this way, that champion takes an additional 3 damage. It's really crucial to note that these abilities only apply to Merlin's attacks. If her allies kill a unit or hit the opponent's champion, no Sheen counters will be moved to the mastery. Now, how do Sheen counters get on your opponent's units? Just stick around and you'll find out. For now, let's return to the rest of the on-enter ability. After gaining the mastery, you also may optionally pay 2 reserve to summon a Memorite Blade token. This is a 0/2 Memorite weapon that, once you activate a spell, gains +1 power and thus gives Merlin the ability to attack a couple of times, helping her trigger her mastery abilities. As a general rule, try to always have 2 reserve up to get this Memorite Blade, as it's extremely powerful to have easy access to these attacks. But we're not done yet. Merlin also has an inherited effect that is crucial to her strategy. As an inherited effect, she will keep this effect even after she levels up to level 2 or 3, and this effect makes it so every time your opponent recollects 3 or more cards, for every 3 cards they recollect, they must place a Sheen counter on a unit they control. So the more your opponent does, the more their memories will start to build Sheen, giving Merlin a chance to swing in and grab it. Merlin Amethyst's Glow is our level 2, and this level is all about giving you the resources you need. On enter, she gets to place 2 Sheen counters on the target unit of your choice, which gives you a great opportunity to force Sheen counters onto their champion to try to push in an attack that gets the bonus damage from her mastery. You might also choose to stack these on an ally you know you will remove, or even one of your own allies. We'll look at what that means soon. But regardless of where they go, more Sheen is added to the board, and once absorbed onto your mastery, it will fuel her second ability, an interesting activated ability with 9 reserve cost. This ability lets you simply draw a card and gain a preparation counter, and can only be activated once, but that steep 9 reserve cost is actually reduced by the amount of Sheen on your mastery, so it's not hard to get it pretty low, or even free. While it can only be used once, it can be used at fast speed, so if you need to hold up cards to interact with the opponent, it makes a great play during an idle recollection phase on the next turn. Finally, Merlin Brilliant Vestige is the level 3, enabling the Krux element and possessing 2 abilities, both of which are gated by our Sheen X requirement. You see, a good number of abilities in this deck are only active when your mastery has at least a certain amount of Sheen on it, meaning that you have to keep playing to gather Sheen by attacking your opponent's unit with Merlin, because these abilities only care about Sheen on the mastery, not on units in play. When you have the requisite amount of Sheen on the mastery, the ability turns on, and in this case, her Sheen 8+ ability is an on-enter that lets you banish a Regalia card from your material deck to draw a card and gain a preparation counter. Effectively, you don't want to go to level 3 without at least 8 Sheen on your mastery, or you will miss out on crucial value. The second ability at Sheen 24+ is rightfully potent and a strong way to lock out a game over time. Once you reach this high Sheen threshold, at the end of each of your turns, you'll look at your opponent's memory and banish a card from it. The opponent has one more turn in which they may activate that card from banishment, but if they don't, it remains banished once that turn ends. Using this to hit awkward late game cards like Dungeon Guide or Powerful Interaction that you normally wouldn't play on your own turn, like Song of Frost, can force the opponent to waste crucial resources or lose them entirely, giving Merlin ample time to line up a victory swing. With the levels out of the way, let's dig into some of her other Regalia options, and we'll start out with a banger that is sure to be a staple in your constructed decks, Prism Spire Scepter. At 0 memory cost, Prism Spire Scepter is one of the most efficient ways to get on-demand Sheen counters on the opponent's champion with its on-enter, and then has the backup charger effect of allowing us to spend 3 reserve to banish it and draw into memory. The trick, just like with Backup Charger, is to use this ability in your recollection phase, and in this case you can use it the same turn you materialize it if you want, immediately drawing a card into memory just before you recollect for the turn to get an easy +1 card out of it. Another of Merlin's signature equipment, the Shardforged Blade, shows that she hasn't totally left her martial spirit behind in set 2, as a 1 power 3 durability weapon with 1 memory cost. However, that cost can be circumvented by simply sacrificing a Memorite object such as one of your tokens when materializing it. Once in play, it has the added effect of getting an additional +2 power whenever you use it to attack an ally with sheen counters, helping you score the kills on those allies to take all that sheen right back. The Proto Key Crest is next, and this curious little artifact has an on-charge ability, which basically just charges up 1 counter during each of your recollection phases. When 3 counters are reached, you get to return it to the material deck and recover 3, helping Merlin stay healthy in games that go long. Some reprint Regalia are coming, and we'll start with one of the strongest, Poisoned Dagger. This all-star item has been around since set 1, pumping up turns to steal games. While it comes in rested, once it wakes up, it can be banished to deal 1 damage, and then add an additional +1 damage to every source that would hit that target unit that turn. In Merlin, this is fantastic. Notably, she has easy weapon access, several ways to play multiple allies in a turn, and her mastery triggers count as a separate damage source, letting her really rack up the pain in a single turn. On the opposite end, we have Assassin's Mantle, which, while thematic, is a minor damage prevention that also grants a preparation counter. Well, it's not a ton, it's honest work that can get Merlin a prep counter she desperately needs, and while doing so, it can stymie an opponent's damage just a hair. But that hair is all you need sometimes. This card can be excellent when played against other Merlin decks to deny those fractured memory damage triggers. Life Essence Amulet, a staple in these pre-constructed decks, allows you to draw a card when an ally you control dies on an opponent's turn. This is very reasonable when you have some fairly threatening allies, so try to set up scenarios where the opponent must answer your board to extract maximum value. And a key piece of interaction, Tariff Ring rounds out our non-advanced element Regalia by helping us slow down opposing attacks to buy time to find the line to win. Finally, the last card of the material deck is Luminous Quartz, a new Krux sword that is more spell than steel. While it can function as a 2 power 3 durability weapon, it's best used to trade preparation counters for raw spell damage, as it will deal damage equal to the number of sheen counters on your opponent's champion +1 without removing those sheen counters. So with proper planning, it's not that hard to get set up to spike lots of damage at the opponent with the Quartz. Now let's move on to the main deck where a lot of Merlin's magic happens. We'll begin with the only ally card in the entire deck, Dormouse Informant, a 2/2 mouse that gives you a preparation counter on enter if you don't have any yet. The mouse is a perfect early play that can start pushing that damage pressure onto the opponent, or it can add damage to help you clear an ally that is stacking up sheen, and the preparation counter it gives you can be used to prepare certain other cards in the deck to make them stronger. Gentle Respite is a fantastic play on the first turn of the game, setting up a floating memory in your graveyard while also giving you a chance to draw a card into your memory if the opponent has nothing to play to reduce their influence and started on a regular draw 7 spirit. And just in case you're checking back in after a break, or you just learned GA through my rules video, there was a rules change that enables this to happen on turn 1, and I have a video linked in the description all about that. Players will now put out both their spirits at the same time with the release of Phantom Monarchs, which enables Gentle Respite to work on turn 1 of the game. For more details, check the link in the description down below. Shardwing Searchlight is the first of our ally token summoning spells, which will let us build Memorite minions for Merlin to command. This one is particularly strong, as with a low 4 or more sheen counters on your fractured memories, it summons 2 of these Memorite Shardwings, 1/2 allies with stealth and true sight, and lets your Memorite objects put sheen counters on anything they hit that turn. This obviously works on the birds, but also your Obeliths and even your Memorite sword. This can make it easy to stack up those 3 sheen counters on the opponent's champion the turn you play it, so you can rip the sheen off with the on-champion hit and deal the bonus 3 damage to them. The bird allies also are an absolute menace on the board, able to freely attack into stealth units, and being pretty difficult to attack back with stealth themselves. For some beefier allies, Obelith Escort will give you exactly what you need, because the Memorite Obeliths it summons have a 0/1 body base, but get +1/+1 for each of up to 5 sheen counters on them. And when they leave play, you get the sheen on them on your mastery. When you spend the 2 preparation counters to play this prepared, you'll get 2 1/2 Memorite Oboliths, and when those leave play, you'll end up getting the 2 Sheen counters from them as well. But if you have any other effects to place Sheen on them, the Oboliths can get way bigger and way scarier. It's not all about attacking though. Protector at all costs gives you another Obolisk token, this time with 2 Sheen counters on it, and then lets you redirect an attack to that ally, saving you from life-threatening attacks. And of course, just like the others, if the Obolisk dies or leaves play, it gives you its Sheen counters as well. But even when you aren't using this to redirect an attack, it's a powerful play just to put a 2/3 or bigger ally into play at fast speed to surprise your opponent. Now with all of these ally tokens, it's nice to have some ways to turn them back into cards, and that's exactly what Undeniable Truth does. As a fast speed action, you can sacrifice any ally to draw a card and gain a preparation counter. And that feels especially strong when the ally you're sacrificing was already the target of an opponent's attacks or spell and was due to die anyway. Now for another way to spend those preparation counters, let's look at Crystalline Reality, which when prepared lets you choose 2 of 3 decent options on its list. Most often this card would be used to summon a new Memorite Blade when you need a way to attack, and you can then give Merlin True Sight for the turn to clear a tricky stealth ally or push through a potentially stealthy champion, or simply draw a card into memory if you don't need the True Sight. But when you need to push more damage or close the game out, you might prefer to spend your preparation counters in a prepared Find the Lost, which is a simple 3 damage attack for 2 reserve that becomes unblockable when it's prepared, allowing it to sail past intercept and taunt units to guarantee it hits its target. When combined with a Memorite Blade on a champion with 3 Sheen on it, this quickly adds up to an unblockable 7 damage attack, which isn't bad at all for putting some pressure on. Now, the deck also contains a few techier cards in lower numbers, so let's quickly look at the norm ones before moving on to the water cards. 2 copies of Overlapping Visages gives you a way to force allies to be sacrificed, which can be absolutely huge into some decks like Guoja when its Seiryu ally hits play. Each player does get to choose which of their allies get sacrificed, but if you've kept the board relatively clear, you can force your opponent into sacrificing the dragon instead of one of their smaller allies. Another Beginning is a potent little card that lets you materialize a 0-cost Regalia from your material deck during your main phase, making it an incredibly solid card for many decks, and here it lets you get out cards like your Poison Dagger a turn faster so you can start to really make the opponent sweat. Other times, you may decide that you no longer need a Regalia in play, so you can always play Return to the Archive to sacrifice your Regalia for an immediate Recover 2, a card draw, and a floating memory into your graveyard. This can be a really nice way to, for example, get value off a Life Essence Amulet that your opponent is just refusing to trigger. And for those times when you need to answer your opponent's Regalia, Converge Reflections is the deck's choice, a card that lets you trade your own item or weapon for theirs by sacrificing one to destroy the other. Now, moving on to water, Will to Save is one of the deck's best turn 1 plays, giving you a quick preparation counter while also setting up your floating memory to get your Merlin level 1 online ASAP. Quiet Refraction is another card you are happy to see super early, as it can turbo out Sheen counters directly onto your Fractured Memories every time you level, and it even draws a card into memory to replace itself. Note that this can still let you get the Sheen counters when you level from 0 to 1 with it in play. You can choose to resolve Merlin's on enter to create your Fractured Memories mastery before you resolve Quiet Refraction's level up trigger to put Sheen counters on that mastery. As your game grows longer, cards like Seep into the Mind grow stronger, giving you some burst Sheen counters and the ability to select and discard a card from the opponent's memory. Discarding from memory not only lets you find and discard key threats you don't want the opponent to play otherwise, it can also be used to stifle leveling when the opponent has exactly enough cards in memory to banish to level up, and you force them to discard one instead, which might happen more often than you think when players are trying to prevent themselves from getting Sheen counters from Merlin's inherited effect. A fairly flexible card, Shattered Hope gives you a fast speed value card draw play for 2 with Merlin's named bonus. This additionally makes allies enter play with a Sheen counter on them that turn, which can be used both to create juicier targets to steal Sheen from, and stronger Obolists to threaten their life with. Consider playing it during your Recollection phase so you can follow it up in your main with a prepared Obelith Escort for big damage. And our last water card is Stand Before the Queen, a simple damage prevention interaction spell with class bonus floating memory. With 8 or more Sheen on your Fractured Memories, it also gains the ability to stealth your unit unless the opponent pays 2, which can sometimes stifle their turn even if they choose to pay the cost. 4 new Krux cards also make their way into the list, but let's start with the biggest one, Spirit Blade Terminus. Our newest Spirit Blade technique is the deck's headlining main deck card, and for good reason. At an efficient cost of 2 reserve, this attack does a little bit of everything when prepared with a mere 1 preparation counter. It will hit reasonably hard once you reach the common threshold of around 8 Sheen counters, but the on-hit when prepared is where the real fun begins. Once it hits, you can double the amount of Sheen counters on your mastery, and then put the attack back into your memory to keep your influence and prepare for it again next turn. The important trick to understand with Spirit Blade Terminus is that the on-champion hit from your mastery and the on-hit from Terminus can be ordered any way you choose, but you probably want to resolve the mastery's on-champion hit to move the Sheen off your opponent's champion to your mastery first, then resolve Terminus's on-hit to double the whole sum. Your opponent will need to do everything they can to stop Terminus from hitting, because not only will it knock a lot of damage on them, it can very suddenly set Merlin up to gain her level 3 Sheen 24+ ability and take over the game. 2 copies of Possessed Reaping provide another attack option, and this is an interesting new card because it fits in both this new Assassin Merlin and the original Merlin or even Lorraine. This strong attack can wipe out most of the game's best units, and then allows you to return them to your field. This could be a very threatening play against other powerful late game units like Ghosts of Pendragon. Now for some of the crazier cards in the deck, in your pre-built deck you'll find 1 copy of Materialize the Soul, which lets you become your opponent's class types in addition to yours, and then materialize any Regalia from your opponent's material deck. There are some incredibly strong Regalia to take, like Incandescent Reliquary and Vaporjet Shield, so this could be a super powerful card in the right situation. Finally, Duality's Convergence is another wild card that plays with Regalia. In this case, it gives each player a distortion copy of all non-distortion Regalia they control. While it seems like it might not be a great idea to give your opponent free things, many Regalia are used up and off the field quickly, so the right board state can let you set up a powerful combination of duplicated Regalia while giving your opponent very little in exchange. I have personally won the game with this by duplicating my Prism Spire Scepter and Luminous Quartz to create a Gatling gun of spell damage every turn after I stacked more Sheen on my opponent's champion. Success with the new Merlin Brilliant Vestige Recollection deck will depend a lot on how you approach the game. You'll find yourself juggling Sheen and preparation counters, debating between attacking the opponent's champion or their allies, and deciding when to level up and when to hold back to materialize other cards as you're exploring this highly mid-range deck. So, to help you have better first games and get you a jump start on the competition, let's go through some of our strategy tips that we've picked up in playing the deck. To start off, our biggest piece of advice is to try to be the threat at all points of the game. If you look at the Fractured Memories Mastery, you'll see that it gives you a subtle goal in its on-champion hit effect: remove 3 Sheen, deal 3 damage. Our best success has been when we try to optimize that ability as much as possible. Once exactly 3 Sheen counters are on their champion, try to get an attack in with Merlin to deal the bonus damage, so any additional Sheen isn't wasted. Your opponent will try to circumvent this by spreading Sheen onto their allies, and sometimes you'll want to get the kill on those allies with Merlin when they've loaded up the counters onto one target, but often you can find lines using cards like Shardwing Searchlight and Prism Spire Scepter to even ignore those for a bit and keep pushing damage onto the opponent by forcing Sheen onto their champion. Now, using your allies to clear their allies is always a good option as well, because a clear board means they will be forced to place the inherited effects Sheen counters on their champion, leading to easier damage lines. Your Obeliths, Dormouse, and the true sight of your Shardwings can really help you maintain that board control, and when you really need it, the Shardforged Blade provides a huge damage boost to get through nasty units like Frostsworn Paladin and Aeson Protector. That said, your playlines are going to be very much dictated by what Sheen and preparation counter gain you've found, but especially Sheen, as the preparation counter use in this deck is much lower than our previous Assassin Recollection deck built around Tristan. Your ideal turn 1 plays to set up can include Gentle Respite for general card advantage, Will to Save to get an initial prep counter ready, and Dormouse Informant if you're going second, so you can ensure you get an attack off with it. The former two will let you set up your level up with floating memory, while Dormouse just provides some initial pressure and works best early when you've got no preparation counters. Dormouse can even be played alongside Will to Save when going second, because you will still have 2 cards in hand afterwards, and it's important to always be prepared to pay the 2 to summon a Memorite Blade token when you do level to Merlin level 1. One more card makes a perfect first or second turn play, and as we mentioned before, that's Quiet Refraction. We discussed earlier how it can still work whether you play it at level 0 or 1, and finding one or multiple can help you hit those sheen requirements on your other cards much faster. This is huge because some cards like Shardwing Searchlight and Seep into the Mind can be extremely strong, but are almost unplayable before you reach those sheen thresholds. Once you do, however, these can create instant damage spikes that provide additional value when you can control the board or force through attacks, and your turns 3 through roughly 5 or so are usually best played trying to set up plays like that and keep your pressure up. During those middle turns of the game, cards like Poison Dagger can really shine because the additional damage will trigger for each source, including separately adding to both your attack and the on-champion hit of your mastery. With multiple cards that create multiple tokens, an attack, a mastery trigger, that Poison Dagger can easily represent 5 or 6 damage on your turn on top of everything else, so this creates a must-answer problem for the opponent at a pretty early point of play. Another card to put some thought into is Shattered Hope, a card that is incredible to play on your Recollection phase when you plan to prepare an Obelisk Escort later in the turn. As a 2 cost with the Merlin bonus that draws a card into hand, holding just 5 cards up going into your turn will let you play 2 of these during your Recollection phase, and then after you recollect, any allies you play will enter with 2 additional sheen, so your Obelisk Escort would make both golems enter as 3 4s that give you 3 sheen each when they leave play. This kind of pressure will force the opponent to react to your plays, putting you in the driver's seat to, for example, level up to 3 and hit them with a giant Terminus next turn after they've given you the 6 sheen that you just put onto the board. And plays like that are exactly the idea with this deck. There's no rush to get to level 3 when you have so many ways to play the game at your lower levels, and you want to have 8 sheen anyway when you level up. But when it's time to close the door on the game, make your way to level 3 and use cards like Spirit Blade Terminus and Luminous Quartz to ramp up the pressure further. And if the opponent continues to evade defeat, hitting that 24 plus sheen threshold on Merlin will slow them down massively by forcing bad plays or stealing away cards until you can eventually land the finishing blow. Now that you have some idea of the strategies to focus on, let's talk about where to take the deck after you've played your first few games. As a Krux Assassin deck, longtime players have already honed in on some incredibly powerful cards that will ramp your deck's power even further. One of the first recommendations we can always make for a Recollection deck is to add a Divine Relic, and our choice for Divine Relic for the deck will be the Looking Glass. Not only is this a great thematic fit, but it will allow you to play copies of the ultra-rare Merlin Surreal Figment at your earlier levels, as she is a distortion and she will help you get sheen exactly where you want it to go to build up those powerful damage lines. The Looking Glass also sets you up to be able to easily play one of the strongest Krux cards, Ghosts of Pendragon. The Looking Glass can be easily returned to fuel your Ghost's Draw 2 ability, and there are some really nice interactions that you can explore beyond this, such as returning Prism Spire Scepter to get targeted sheen counters turn after turn. And when your sheen isn't going exactly where you want, or when the opponent isn't letting any of your attacks through, Infinite Scintillation is a fantastic option to change your sheen into spell damage and give you a nice floating memory to use for your leveling. Some Assassin All-Stars from the past make great includes here as well. Incapacitate is one of the strongest negation actions in the game and is even being reprinted in Phantom Monarchs as an uncommon, so finding copies should be easier than ever. This will help ensure Merlin's Terminus can land by negating cards like Song of Frost and protect her from any of the scarier game-winning actions in the game like Arcane Blast and Incarnate Majesty. And Sadie Blood Harvester from Mercurial Heart is an astonishingly good ally for both preparation counter gain and general resource economy, plus she's extremely hard to remove from the game as long as you can hold up 2 reserve to return her to hand. And if you're looking for more ways to add to your pressure lines, Slice and Dice can be the game ender you're looking for all throughout the game. It works well with Poison Dagger, gives you a great outlet for when your prep gain is higher, and can even tear through an Interceptor and still get the second attack on the opponent's champion for the best of both worlds. Another option to increase your pressure is to add the ultra-rare Excalibur Reflected Edge from Distorted Reflections, which gives Merlin a powerful damage boost and True Sight to get around pesky stealth effects, and can even duplicate her powerful Regalia like Poison Dagger and Prism Spire Scepter. If you want to take your game a little slower, you can definitely look at Burnished Obelith and Spalling Cleanse, both at low rarity from Phantom Monarchs. Burnished Obelith gives you a solid taunter to defend you while letting you direct Sheen counters to the enemy target of your choice, while Spalling Cleanse can ramp up your Sheen or recover you 3 while also providing you an easy floating memory. Finally, let's add one more ultra rare to hunt down to the list, Labyrinth Jeweled Opus. This card is the game-locking, must-answer play for Water Merlin, which stacks more and more power as her Sheen counters grow. At 10+, the most crucial ability is online. As long as Merlin stays awake, she'll be nearly untargetable with both Spell Shroud and Stealth, unless the opponent is willing and able to commit 7 cards to memory first. Hitting 18 Sheen gives Merlin an incredibly strong additional card draw at the end of each of her turns, and the game is over at 36 Sheen when you can rest Labyrinth to move any amount of that Sheen onto your opponent, setting up for an instant kill with Luminous Quartz or Infinite Scintillation. Regardless of how you tweak the deck, I'm sure you will love playing with and exploring the new Merlin Brilliant Vestige Recollection deck. If you want more Grand Archive goodness, check out either of these 2 videos, which are overviews of previously released starter deck or Recollection deck product that you can find at your local game store shelves. Thank you so much to Weebs of the Shore for sponsoring this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all in the next one.